Inselmilkom u nilqakom mal edizzjoni oħra mill-programm Dinja Ewropa li fih niffukaw dwar dak kollu li jkun għaddej fil-Parlament Ewropew u naraw x'kien qed jiffoka fuqu il-Parlament Ewropew u naddattawh ukoll għal ħajjitna. Fil-fatt il-ġimgħa li għaddiet il-Parlament Ewropew tefa' dawl fuq l-ugwaljanza bejn il-ġeneri, bejn in-nisa u l-irġiel, permezz ta' attivitajiet, diskussjonijiet u anka billi ressa il-quddiem direttivi li qed jiġu diskussi bħal dik tal-vjolenza fuq in-nisa. Din kienet ir-raba' sena li kienet qed tiġi infakra l-importanza ta' aktar ħidma favur l-ugwaljanza bejn is-sessi u diversi kumitati parlamentari u delegazzjonijiet kellhom sessjonijiet speċjali biex jiddiskutu dwar il-politika jew inkella kif nafuhom aħjar bl-Ingliż il-policies li għandhom ikomplu jiżviluppaw biex l-ugwaljanza xi darba tintlaħaq. Ilna snin twal għaddejjem daw id-diskussjonijiet u sfortunatament f'pajjiżi aktar minn oħrajn l-ugwaljanza għadha nieqsa ħafna. Fost oħrajn kienu diskussi suġġetti bħal l-impatt tal-politika Ewropea dwar il-kummerċ u kif din tolqot lin-nisa, is-sehem tan-nisa fis-sistema tal-agrikoltura li eventwalment tissarraf fl-ikel li aħna jkollna fuq il-mejda tagħna ta' kuljum u kif in-nisa huma parteċipi f'dan is-settur, in-nisa u l-politika, in-nisa u l-enerġija nadifa u anke il-ħolqien ta' teknoloġija ġdida b'enerġija nadifa u anke kien diskuss ukoll il-kanċer fin-nisa fost oħrajn. Interessanti ħafna dak li ħareġ il-ġimgħa li għaddiet li kien l-indiċi dwar l-ugwaljanza bejn l-irġiel u n-nisa fil-pajjiżi tal-Unjoni Ewropea u jirriżulta li għall-ewwel darba kemm ilu isir dan l-indiċi kien hemm żvilupp il-quddiem fil-medja tal-pajjiżi kollha imsieħba fl-Unjoni Ewropea. Fil-fatt kien hemm żieda ta' 1.6 punti perċentwali fuq is-sena li għaddiet kif qegħdin naraw f'din l-istampa li qegħdin nurukom. Il-medja fil-fatt fost il-pajjiżi tal-Unjoni Ewropea hija perċentwal ta' 7.2%. Malta qiegħda viċin din il-medja fl-Unjoni Ewropea u hija ta' 67.8%. Xi pajjiżi li huma il-fuq minn din il-medja huma l-Iżvezja, il-Finlandja, l-Awstrija, l-Olanda, il-Lussemburgu, Franza, l-Irlanda, il-Ġermanja, id-Danimarka u anka il-Belġju innifsu. Meta mbagħad nidħlu aktar fid-dettall u naraw Malta fejn qed tinħass l-ugwaljanza u fejn għadha nieqsa xi ftit l-ugwaljanza, naraw kif Malta taqbes il-medja f'dak li hu għarfien fost il-popolazzjoni. Ġifri llum il-ġurnata il-popolazzjoni m'għadix fejn jidħol għarfien l-universitajiet qed jattendu kważi ħafna iktar nisa minn irġiel bħalma naraw il-gradwati kull sena u hemmhekk Malta taqbes il-medja wkoll fis-servizz li jingħata fis-saħħa nisa u irġiel huma trattati l-istess fil-pagi u anka fuq il-postijiet tax-xogħol kif huma trattati in-nisa u l-irġiel. U hawnhekk huwa punt importanti ħafna li f'Malta qed isir din it-tip ta' ugwaljanza. Meta mbagħad inħarsu lejn l-inugwaljanza ġifri fejn hemm separazzjoni pjuttost naqra wiesa' f'Malta bejn in-nisa u rġiel, din l-inugwaljanza l-iktar li tinħass hija fis-settur politiku, fis-sem tan-nisa u rġiel fil-politika, speċjalment f'bordijiet fejn jittieħdu deċiżjonijiet importanti li jaffettwa kemm lil dik il-kumpanija per se kif ukoll f'bordijiet ta' awtoritajiet li huma aktar magħmulin minn irġiel milli minn nisa. Hemm ukoll inugwaljanza fil-ħin li tqatta' il-mara fejn tagħmel xogħol ma' ulieda huwa ħin li mhuwiex imħallas meta mqabbel ma' dak il-ħin li jagħmel raġel fuq il-post tax-xogħol u l-ħin tiegħu huwa imħallas. Huma interessanti ħafna anke meta tidħol pajjiż tara fejn huma l-ugwaljanzi u l-inugwaljanzi u tinduna il-pajjiż x'politika wkoll ħaddan. Se nisimgħu issa x'kellhom xi jgħidu xi membri parlamentari Ewropej fosthom Evelyn Regner li hija waħda mill-Viċi Presidenti tal-Parlament Ewropew dwar din il-kwistjoni ta' l-ugwaljanza fost il-ġeneri.
One thing is unfortunately not changed. We need 60 years to reach full equality between men and women in European Union. None of us probably will witness it. This is a sad news we are hearing from IGET. This is a sad data. We nothing to celebrate, just to reflect that this is too long to wait. 300 years to reach full equality globally. So we can't wait for that.
The world is in a very difficult place, and it is nice that we recall how if we could only see more balance in terms of gender, the world might be a better place.
Gender equality is one of our values in the European Union, and gender equality therefore is in the DNA of the European Parliament. So gender mainstreaming and gender equality, they should be really the guidance for political decisions 52 weeks of the year. But in order to remind all the committees that it's also their job, I mean really all the committees, it's good to raise awareness in the Gender Equality Week. We really reached progress for all areas of life that really women feel. I mean, women on boards, that means you can be what you see. So somehow to increase the fantastic women who are really excellent and they really have the possibility to be on the top. To close the gender pay gap, that means to do the utmost in order to increase the financial independence of women. And that's really part of really leading a free life. And the very basic necessity we need is a life free of violence. And implementing the Istanbul Convention in all European countries, this means that it gives women the breath they need to take to be free from violence. The story is not finished yet, and therefore we're pushing the next legislative steps, which means a successful legislative package on gender-based violence to fight it. There's a lot in there on cyber crimes, on online violence, and of course what we need is also that rape is in there, the most crucial form of violence. Only a yes is a yes. That should be in.
Kif smajna lil Viċi President Evelyn Regner tajt hemm direttivi li huma importanti ħafna fosthom id-direttiva li titratta l-vjolenza fuq in-nisa li bħalissa qed isiru negozjati dwarha mal-Kunsill Ewropew, direttiva li tinkludi wkoll il-vjolenza domestika u sfortunatament illum in-nisa madwar l-Ewropa għandhom livelli differenti ta' protezzjoni minn krimini bħal pereżempju ir-rape. Uħud mill-pajjiżi Ewropej sfortunatament għadhom qed joġġezzjonaw li din tar-rape b'kunsens tkun inkluża din id-definizzjoni fil-liġi Ewropea. Fil-fatt, il-membri parlamentari Ewropej li qegħdin jaħdmu fuq din id-direttiva fosthom Francis Fitzgerald li huwa hija membru parlamentari Ewropew Irlandiża u Evelyn Insir, membru parlamentari Żvediża, qed jinsistu ħafna u jispjegaw tajjeb ħafna għal xiex il-rape b'kunsens għandu din id-definizzjoni għandha tidħol f'din il-liġi Ewropea. Fil-fatt ħansemmakom ukoll xi clips li ħarġu minn briefing li jingħata lil ġurnalisti il-ġimgħa li għaddiet u li aħna konna wkoll preżenti għalih dan il-briefing biex nifhmu għaliex din l-insistenza kollha li tidħol din id-definizzjoni tal-rape b'kunsens f'din id-direttiva tal-vjolenza kontra in-nisa.
This is the first time, as has been said, that there is the possibility of a directive on this issue on violence against women across the EU. Every 10 years, a city the size of Amsterdam, Rotterdam, Zagreb disappears because 848,000 women die because of femicide. It's all about prevention, it's about protection, and it's about prosecution, just like the Istanbul Convention. Try and explain to anyone why rape would not be in a directive on violence against women. And what they're saying is that it doesn't come under the definition of sexual exploitation as described in the treaties, that applies to trafficking in a particular context. And that is their raison d'etre, really, for saying that rape should not be included. I think beneath that, it's saying that the criminal justice law should be left to the member states. But we would argue that this is a very important crime to be dealt with across all the member states, to include the principle of consent, particularly. It's really important. Not all member states have that, but a number do. And right now we have about a certain number of member states who are supporting the position of the Parliament, but we have quite a number who are not supporting it. And that is not yet being discussed in the trilogues, but that is the Council's legal advice. So that is very problematic for us at present. So I'll hand over to Evan now to take the case from there.
Thank you. Please. Thank you very much, and thank you, Frances, for the introduction, and I'll try to add some additional aspects also. First and foremost, as Frances Fitzgerald, my co-rapporteur, very well said, this is a heinous violence that has been taking place for so long time, and it is indeed shocking that it has taken so long time for the Commission to put forward legislation, and important legislation such as this one. Women and girls are subjected to gender-based violence in all areas of life. In the private sphere, in schools, at work, in public places, and online. So everywhere. At the labour market, we also know, for example, a couple of years ago, when the Me Too movement put the light on the serious situation of sexual violence that exists on the labour market, that hasn't either been addressed sufficiently. And we have seen year after year how women are being deprived of their lives, and they continuously are being deprived, women and girls, just because they are women and girls. I think if it would have been men and boys, then the society would have been reacted in a total other way. So it is the first of its kind, this directive, and it is also, in that sense, since it's been taking so long time, historical. As Frances mentioned, one of the biggest challenges we have is to make the majority of the member states to understand that we need a consent-based rape paragraph. Not only a rape paragraph, but a consent-based rape paragraph, that only a yes is a yes. Everything else than a yes is a no. And that shouldn't be anything. That shouldn't be a controversial issue. That should be reality wherever you're on this planet, even you live in as a woman and a girl. From in my own country, Sweden introduced its consent-based rape legislation 5 years ago. And between 2017 and 2019, there was an increase of convictions with 75%. With 75%. It really showed how consent-based rape legislation could actually change and save the lives of so many women and girls. And this is also why it's important to ensure that all women and girls all across our 27 member states have the right to same justice. Because in the end, we need to not only by words say that women's rights are human rights, but also by deeds, by actions show that women's and girls' rights are human rights. We have ourselves, Frances and I, been in contact with different actors in the 27 member states. We have sent, for example, a letter to the heads of states in all the 27 member states and demanded for those who have said no to this proposal to change from the no side to the right side of history, to say yes to have a consent-based the rape legislation included in the directive. And to those who have expressed yes or have been positive to it, to take leadership for this, to put pressure on their colleagues in the other member states, so that we ensure that we have a directive that is not only a cyber legislation, but also a legislation that prevents physical rape. And we know, of course, that what's happened on the net and what's happened in real life is interconnected, but we also need to have a holistic legislation that is addressing both areas of life, the internet and the real life. And finally, also, we are glad to see so many, and we are very thankful to all the women's movements all across the European Union that have also put the light on this directive and also taking part in the struggle to ensure that our governments goes from standing on the wrong side of history to standing on the right side of history. I must say 2 countries that I am very much disappointed at, which are 2 big countries that I would have seen being among those countries that actually firstly said yes, would have been Germany and France. Still Germany and France are saying no to it. I'm of course happy to see that the Swedish government, my own government, today have declared that they now are positive to this legislation. But we also need the big countries to understand that time is now to stand on the right side of history. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your very passionate, and indeed it's a topic that touches our emotions deeply. So before we take the questions, just one little follow-up on what you said. Does it mean if you manage to insert rape based on a consent definition in this law, this definition would apply in all the EU member states, no matter what is the national legislation? Is that correct?
I mean, what the directive does is that they put the minimum standards. You can always have better legislation, but you cannot have worse legislation. So this legislation would mean that only a yes is yes and everything else then a yes is no. Okay. But for example, the Swedish legislation goes even further, but the directive always put the minimum standards.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Francis.
Mrs. Fitzgerald, yes.
Yes, 16 member states have amended their legislation to adapt definitions based on lack of consent as the main constituent element of the crime. But there are different levels and different ways of approaching it. This would be, setting a strong standard that would include consent, because there are countries that don't have it included at all.
So this would change for those countries who haven't it
yes.
included. Okay. So you see it a bit as a wasted opportunity. I mean, of course, all the dimensions of the directive are important, but you see that it would be a wasted opportunity not to have rape at this stage in this instrument that is quite broad and comprehensive, right?
Yes, because I think if you ask any person walking along the street, you ask anybody on this call, do you think rape is sexually exploitative? I think the answer is yes. But what you have is a very technical approach almost that says, well, when the treaties were, when we had the treaties originally, it was in the context of trafficking. But of course, you could have a broader definition, and that's what we're urging the member states to do, to go for, a broader definition that is inclusive of rape. Because, as you say, this is an important directive from the point of view of FGM, female genital mutilation, cyber violence, all of the different elements of cyber violence. It's really important to be setting standards across Europe and laying out, that this is a criminal activity and needs to be dealt with very seriously in our member states and the other crimes. But to exclude rape, it's hard to call it a directive on violence against women if you exclude rape, whatever the technical legal reasons. In the same way that, we could have free movement if you're a person, if you're a woman travelling from one country to another, that you can be assured of the same standards if a crime is committed against you.
Fost il-pajjiżi li għadhom qegħdin joġġezzjonaw b'saħħa għal din id-definizzjoni hemm il-Ġermanja u Franza. Sfortunatament, kulħadd kien qed jistenna li dawn ikunu proattivi aktar biex idaħħlu din id-definizzjoni, però sfortunatament hemm reżistenza qawwija għal din id-definizzjoni. Mill-banda l-oħra, meta mistoqsijin dwar x'inhi l-pożizzjoni ta' Malta, jidher biċ-ċar li Malta għadha m'għamlitx il-pożizzjoni tagħha kif se nisimgħu f'din il-klipp.
I do see a question there about Malta as well. Malta hasn't made its position known. In fact, I spoke to the Commissioner about it, just to Commissioner Daly the other day, And Malta, we just don't know where they're going to, what they're going to say.
Mil-banda l-oħra, il-Parlament Ewropew meta kien qiegħed jitkellem u jiddiskuti din id-direttiva tal-vjolenza kontra in-nisa, kompla jinsisti li għandu jkun hemm politika aktar wiesa ta' aktar protezzjoni fuq il-vittmi u jkun hemm aktar pieni qawwija fuq min iwettaq krimini ta' vjolenza. Qed jinsistu wkoll biex ikun hemm aktar pieni ħorox kif ukoll fuq fastidju online bħal meta jinħarġu filmati intimi jew inkella ritratti li juru partijiet intimi tal-ġisem tal-persuna. Il-Parlament Ewropew ukoll qiegħed jinsisti li jkun hemm rapportaġġ u proċeduri investigattivi li jinċentivaw aktar protezzjoni u appoġġ lil vittmi mhux aktar biża' li l-vittmi jitkellmu u jikxfu lil min għamel l-att kriminali.
Time is now to do everything we can to consign this horrific crime to the dustbin of history, to ensure that women and girls can live a free life beyond violence. All types of violence.
Inħallu hemmhekk id-direttiva dwar il-vjolenza fuq in-nisa u fl-aħħar ta' dan il-programm se nkun qed insemmilkom premju li huwa importanti ħafna moti mill-Parlament Ewropew ta' kull sena qegħdin nitkellmu dwar il-premju Sakharov. Dwar dan il-premju se nkunu qed nitkellmu aktar il-quddiem, però xtaqt li anka qed nitkellmu dwar l-ugwaljanza dwar fil-ġeneri u l-vjolenza kontra in-nisa insemmi unsemmalkom ta' kif ingħatat l-aħbar ta' minu il-rebbieħ għal din is-sena tal-Premju Sakharov. Nisimgħu il-President tal-Parlament Ewropew Roberta Metsola.
I am very proud to announce that the 2023 Sakharov Prize for Freedom of Thought has been awarded to Jina Mahsa Amini and the Women, Life and Freedom Movement in Iran. The 16th of September 2022 is a date which will live in infamy, and the brutal murder of 22-year-old Jina Mahsa Amini marked a turning point. It has triggered a women-led movement that is making history. The world has heard the chants of women, life, liberty, 3 words that have become a rallying cry for all those standing up for equality, for dignity and for freedom in Iran. So let's today's prize serve as our tribute to the brave and defiant women, men and young people in Iran who, despite coming under increasing pressure, are leading the push for change. The European Parliament hears you, the world sees you, and we are with you. Zan Zendegi Azadi.
Fil-fatt hemmhekk kif smajna Jina Mahsa Amini u l-moviment Nisa Ħajja u Ħelsien fl-Iran huma r-rebbieħa u l-istorja tagħhom fuq tmur lura għal Settembru tas-sena li għaddiet, Settembru 2022, meta din it-tfajla żagħżugħa Iranjana li kellha biss 22 sena bl-isem ta' Jina Mahsa Amini mietet fi sptar f'Teheran fl-Iran stess f'ċirkostanzi misterjużi ħafna. Dan wara li il-Guidance Patrol u l-Pulizija Iranjana tal-Moralità arrestawa għaliex ma kinitx libsa il-ħiġab, dak l-ilbies li nafu li jintlibes fl-Iran. Sfortunatament, l-standards Iranjani jimponu fuq in-nisa li jilbsu il-ħiġab u din it-tfajla ma kinitx libsa il-ħiġab bi protesta u l-Pulizija Iranjana tal-Moralità kienu arrestawa. Skont il-kmandant tal-Pulizija Iranjana Mahsa Amini soffriet attak tal-qalb u waqgħet f'koma qabel ma kienet trasferita fl-isptar, madankollu xhieda li jinkludu anke nisa li kienu miżmuma mill-Pulizija Iranjana sostnew li kienet mietet kawża ta' swad bruttali mill-pulizija stess. Fil-fatt, ir-riżultati tal-awtopsja li anka kienu illikjati lill-medja jirriżulta li kienet soffriet minn emorraġija frasa jew anka stroke minħabba feriti serji frasa meta kienet fiħdan l-arrest fiħdan il-pulizija iranjana. Sfortunatament minn dak iż-żmien law mijiet diġà tilfu ħajjithom kemm nisa kemm irġiel waqt dawn l-irvellijiet fl-Iran u aktar komplew jihraxu meta kien magħruf il-mewt dwar il-mewt ta' Gina Mahsa Amini. Ovvjament dwar dan il-premju, dwar din il-kawża ħankunu għadin nitkellmu aktar fi programmi il-quddiem. Jiena nirringrazzjakom tal-li kontu magħna għal din il-ġimgħa ukoll u nittamaw li meta nintaqgħu s-sena id-dieħla bħal da żmien sena nkunu qed nitkellmu dwar aktar pajjiżi li laħqu l-ugwaljanza bejn l-irġiel u n-nisa il għaliex jalla dak li qed jipproponi il-Parlament Ewropew u jalla l-pajjiżi membri tal-Unjoni Ewropea jifmu kemm hi importanti l-ugwaljanza bejn il-ġeneri il għaliex soċjetà kollha tal-Unjoni Ewropea hija bżonjuża kemm fuq livell politiku, kemm fuq livell ekonomiku, kemm fuq livell soċjali u anka solidari bejnietna. Jiena nirringrazzjakom u niltaqgħu il-ġimgħa d-dieħla.